Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs, Honorable Minister of Finance Ardwell, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Rolika Roach of the Department of Communication, and on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Ardwell, I welcome you to this press conference with regards to the stimulus relief plan for St. Maarten. For more on this topic, I would first like to invite the Prime Minister of St. Maarten, the Honorable Silveria Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister.
Yes, good morning again, and thank you, Rolika, for hosting yet another virtual press conference. Welcome to the media, especially our Stephen Irion, who for some reason missed the first one. We're happy to have you. I'm sorry. I'm alone in my room. I need a break, sorry, having a coughing fit.
Welcome back to this press conference. Once again, I would like to reintroduce the Prime Minister of St. Maarten, the Honorable Silveria Jacobs.
My apologies for the break. I did end up having a coughing fit due to choking, Rolika, and not respiratory issues. It took me a while to catch myself, when it goes the wrong way, how that goes. So I'm okay at the moment. Thank you for your patience. As a result of the COVID-19 realities as a government, we were quickly able to start assessment as to the economic fallout. As you know, that even prior to having any cases with our shutdowns that we started weeks ago, that many businesses are or were since the middle of March feeling the economic effects of this. I still have no regrets that I have had to do that, because in this way we avoided importing more cases. Of course, now we're dealing with the social and the community spread of what may have been one or two imported cases. We are tracing exactly where that came from, but this press conference is not about necessarily that. It's about how government is planning to sustain businesses and the population in this period upcoming, which is, let's say, from mid-April or end of April down into, I believe it is for 3 months. The minister will be able to elucidate further. The stimulus plan of the government of St. Maarten was presented to the CFT on the 4th of April, last Saturday, as well as to the Ministry of Interior and Kingdom Relations, BZK, on Sunday, April 5th. This will be discussed in the upcoming meetings of the Kingdom Council of Ministers, as of course we are requesting financial assistance to be able to carry out the stimulus plan. And we hope that our partners will see it prudent to assist us with this, as they have with our medical shortfalls. As they have reiterated in all our meetings, and as the Prime Minister has said himself, no one within the kingdom should go hungry. No one within the kingdom should die as a result of not having enough materials to deal with any outbreak. So with that, I would now pass the word over to our Honorable Minister of Finance, Minister Ardwell Irion.
Good morning, Rolika. Good morning, PM. Good morning to the media and all those viewing by the different forms of media. I'm assuming we're also streaming by radio. Thank you again for having this press conference to address the public pertaining to stimulus package and relief. As the list of countries shutting down in the face of the coronavirus pandemic continues to grow, the measures necessary to contain the virus, quarantine, social distancing, the closing of schools, daycares, and other non-essential businesses. We also then see the effects that it would have on our economy. Economies around the world are coming to a screeching halt. To avoid deep, long-lasting damage to the economy, the government of St. Maarten plans to reduce the amount of personal and corporate bankruptcies and ensure that the people have some sort of income to continue spending, even if they're not working. As Minister of Finance, with my staff, my team, and recommendations gathered by the emergency support functions, the ESFs, and all the other different relevant stakeholders, and our task force, prepared what we call the Sint Maarten Support Relief Plan, the SSRP. Together with the relief and the programs, the plan includes the cost of the plan, which forms part of the request to the Netherlands and totals 254 million guilders for the first 3 months. The SSRP covers direct relief, which includes a payroll support program, income support program, a soft loan program, as well as an underemployed program for an amount of 109 million guilders. For the unemployed, the established unemployment benefits will continue. The SSRP also includes funds to compensate for the loss of government income for an amount of 89.2 million guilders, which is needed to enable the government to carry out already existing but now expanded programs, such as the food voucher program, food boxes for the most vulnerable groups, meals for the elderly, and psychosocial care. For the additional healthcare expenses, an amount of 56.28 million has been budgeted and is intended for additional healthcare expenses, as well as support to SFV and the Sint Maarten Medical Center. The request has been prepared in close consultation with the CFT and with guidance from the IMF. Making sure public health is prioritized and is covered as a top priority. The Ministry of Finance was also sure to factor in expenses directly related to COVID-19 and flattening the curve. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on Sint Maarten's healthcare system and economy, as it has done in other countries worldwide. Being a tourist-based economy, closing borders and locking down the island has directly affected our economy. Sint Maarten has not yet recovered from the financial repercussions of Hurricane Irma. This, in combination with the slow season and no timeline for recovery of the global tourism, makes the island more vulnerable than most. The government acknowledged that it is imperative that adequate measures are taken to absorb the economic shock and social impact of this new shock, and to achieve rapid recovery for the economy. They also acknowledge the importance of supporting businesses and those at risk of losing their jobs. Having followed the guidelines of CFT where possible, it quickly became evident that a further assistance would be necessary in order to support the economy through this health crisis. The government has approached the Netherlands for this grant support in the form of a request of a grant and opposed to a loan. A grant will provide for the recovery of this crisis and enable the country to borrow for the necessary investments aimed at growth and allowing for a future with less financial dependency. This will also allow our citizens to focus on their health more than their finances. I would also like to note that I have seen the articles and from our representative in the CFT, and I would also like to state that I stand in solidarity with his request to the CFT, and that Mr. Voges has my support and that support of the government of Sint Maarten. I would also again like to emphasize the importance of the funding to be a loan, and a grant and not a loan, for us not to reach our threshold, our borrowing threshold. And as you see around the world, especially in the Eurozone, that the funding that's being released is a grant to help the economy and not to be a financial burden. I now will take any questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister Irion. We have the media who has joined us once again via the Teams meeting to pose their questions. Members of the media, like we did in the press briefing, once I call on your name, kindly unmute your mic and ask the question to the respective ministers. Stephen Cyrilin of PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
Morning to you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Ministers, Prime Minister. My question is for the Minister of Finance. You're basically saying that the 240 million guilders which has been requested of the Netherlands will be requested of them in the form of a grant. Has there been any firm decision coming from the Netherlands as far as making this money available to Sint Maarten?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cyrillian. There hasn't been a firm decision as yet. We are expecting a firm decision by next week, but in the meantime, we are preparing to use the funds that we have available and our expected liquidity support to come in to start the process. As I stated before, our plan is to avoid layoffs, is to avoid companies having to go bankrupt. So our plan is to continue as is with our current liquidity and the liquidity support that is supposed to be coming in very shortly.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Thank you, Stephen Cerillion. I would now call on Jeffrey Saccharin of Island 92.
Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with Minister Irion. You had talked about three, if you will, tranches or three parts of the St. Maarten relief plan. You talked about payroll support, you talked about income support, and you talked about a loan program. Could you give us a little more detail as to what's involved with the payroll support, the income support, and the loan program as the plan was proposed?
In terms of the payroll support, our proposed plan, so I would like to also make this very clear, this is our proposed plan to the Netherlands, but in anticipation that it will be approved, we will start the process of executing on our end. Our payroll support program is for, the plan is to cover 80% of the salary of the most affected companies. So, for example, if you have, for example, a hotel, for example, once a business could prove that they have 20% hardship, that we as government then propose to pay 80% of the payroll, so subsidized payroll support.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Thank you, Jeffrey Saccharin. I now call on Andrew Dick of TV Carib.
Yes, good afternoon to all. Minister of Finance, just to be clear, because I don't want people to maybe get lost in the numbers, so to speak, but does a resident get money in their hand directly? I think you having a proposal and you're saying that payroll support and other benefits to the package, but those who are unemployed, those who are employed, those who are laid off, if social assistance, is it everything bundled up, and will person get money in their hand?
Okay, so Andrew, you kind of put everything together, which is not the point. So the idea is, again, payroll support. So the idea is to avoid layoffs. The main idea of this concept is to avoid layoffs. So companies that face hardship at the moment, they will have to apply for the payroll support, prove hardship of at least 20%, and we as government will pay up to 80% of the salary. That does not mean that the employer cannot contribute the rest. We will pay up to 80% of the salary. Persons that are already unemployed are advised to go through the regular unemployment flow, which is through social affairs. And you also mentioned, what's the third one, the third category you mentioned?
Andrew, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. So those who are unemployed, those who have no job, where do they go? Or is everything under social assistance? Would they have to
Yes. So the unemployed go through the regular social assistance, which already have been advertised on the government's payroll page. And you ask also if persons get their money directly in their hand. No, persons get paid. So they get paid through their job.
Okay, so
it's payroll support.
Thank you, Minister Irion. We will now move on to the second round of questions. Oh, Andrew, clarification?
So just to clarify, Minister, if they are working, so those who are working or those who are having any type of issues, social assistance that they would need, you're saying then it's through the job they would get the relief and not directly from government. It's a simple question.
But you're saying two different things, Andrew. You're saying a person that's working for their job and a person that needs social assistance. That's two different people. If you need social assistance because you're unemployed, then you go through the regular social assistance. If you're already employed, and even if you're at risk, your company is at risk of, for example, there's no more income for a tour operator, right? But you're still on payroll. Government is proposing to pay 80% of that person's salary for the next 3 months. So there is a difference between unemployed, currently employed, but at risk of losing their job, and the company also not getting any more income.
Thank you, Mr. Irion. Thank you, Andrew. We now move on to the second round of questions. Stephen Cyrilin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Again, Minister, we know that Curacao is requesting 400 million guilders from the Netherlands. St. Maarten is now requesting as a grant 240 million guilders. So is Aruba also requesting some money from the Netherlands based on the situation regarding COVID-19. Is there any guarantee that the money that St. Maarten in particular is requesting will be received in order to help pay the payroll of companies who might have been going through the difficult financial times as in combating COVID-19?
Thank you for your question. The talks with the Netherlands so far have been pretty positive. Again, we haven't gotten a direct answer to if we will get this amount of money. But as I said before, we will proceed with our plan as follows. And but so far we have gotten a response as in we will get support, but the amount has not been established as yet.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Jeffrey Sokrin of Island 92, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Also for Minister Irion, are there, I guess the first, is there a place that we can actually look at the plan? Is that available to us? And are there any limitations on, that payroll support? And I guess the other thing that kind of comes to mind as we think about, businesses that are in trouble or struggling to survive, are there any provisions that are part of the plan that deal with the postponement of commercial rents? Because businesses are closed, obviously they're not generating any income, they can't continue to pay their rent. That's kind of where I'd like to go if you would be kind enough to tell us your thoughts.
Okay, you were kind of breaking up for a second, but.
Mr. Sokrin, can you repeat the question as you were breaking up and the Minister of Finance wasn't able to hear the question fully?
Hang on, can you hear me now? Because it still says unmuting, whatever that works.
Yes.
So really the question is, are there any limitations on the payroll support? We say 80% for those companies that are most affected. And then as part of this discussion, is there any place that we can look at the actual plan that was submitted? And then I guess as an offshoot of all of this, knowing that we have lots of companies that are going to be struggling just to make payroll, has there been any discussion about the postponement of commercial rents because people won't be generating any income to pay their rental expenses?
Okay, so the first question pertaining to the plan, yes, the plan will be able to be viewed. We will send it out to the media. We're also launching a website, hopefully to be launched before the end of the week. I'll also have the plan on my personal page and the government page. Pertaining to limitations, again, companies must show proven hardship of at least 20%. So the only limitation for a company is to prove that they are seeing financial hardship of minimum 20%, which is the lowest if you compare to other plans in the region or even Europe. There they ask for minimum of 25%. Second, we're You mentioned payroll, companies struggling with payroll, but this plan exactly helps that, because this plan shows that we are going to support payroll, which is probably the largest expense of most companies. So we are providing a payroll support of 80% of for companies that that see hardship. And your last question was rent. Again, this topic came up earlier with the press briefing, the Council of Ministers, and it's still being discussed. But as of now, there have been no discussions pertaining to rent and companies not paying rent. And secondly, part of our proposal is a loan program at low rates, which could also be used for your utilities, your rent, product, and so forth. So the program also has a loan component which can be used for utilities, loans, and product.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Andrew Dick, you have the floor.
Okay, Minister Irion and also the Prime Minister, is there a plan B? Let's say we don't get the funds from the Netherlands. Is there a plan B? And also in the same breath, Minister Irion, will there be any tax relief for businesses?
Thank you, Andrew. We have already posted the tax deferment proposal to the page, to government, to the media, I believe, weeks ago. Secondly, Plan B is, we basically already started Plan B. We haven't gotten the money as yet, and we are planning to execute with our liquidity supporters coming in already. So Plan B is our Plan A, and Plan A is our Plan B in a sense, because we haven't gotten approval as yet for any amount from the Netherlands, but we will start with the incoming liquidity support on executing our plan. It is the expectation. It's hard. It would be hard for me to imagine seeing the requests around the world. This is not an isolated case. This is not a Hurricane Irma case. If you see the requests coming in from Italy, Spain, and Europe, and other countries around the world, I can't imagine that as a kingdom partner within the Netherlands that we be excluded from any support or financial aid. So it is the expectation that we will get support, but under what conditions and the amount has not yet been determined.
Just for clarification, so that means there is no Plan B then?
A plan B to what exactly?
We're not receiving the funds, Minister, because we request. They say they can't do it right now. If they say they can't do it right now, are we going to just wait for the answer, or what's the Plan B? That's what I'm asking. Maybe you didn't think of one yet.
No, we have been exploring other options also, but as I said before, we have gotten confirmation that we will be getting support. So we have gotten confirmation that we will be getting support.
Also, Minister, if I may add, currently we are dealing with any fallout that we have out of budget. When Minister said the Plan A is our Plan B, is the fact that we have not received any funds as yet, and we're dealing with our budget to be able to assist those in need. At the moment, we have prepared, and Minister Alvesa gave the number of boxes, but we had budgeted for the initial first week for 1,500 persons to be able to assist them with food. When that food has been boxed, packaged, and delivered, we'll then move over, if the funding has not been received within the next 3 weeks, to do vouchers for supermarkets, which is in collaboration with the delivery system from the supermarket, so that nobody falls through the cracks. So there are people who can pay for their own food online, and then of course there are people who will be falling into this situation within the next 2 weeks, or already have fallen in based on the numbers we've received from social affairs. People are registering. We're trying to determine where the acute cases are so that we can get the food boxes to them right now. We had only about 1,000 people that were covered within our vulnerable groups within the system, which is through Red Cross, SMDF, through the White and Yellow Cross, through the senior citizens organizations, through the soup kitchens that the churches and other registered persons on social welfare. In government, we had over 1,000 persons. We budgeted for 1,500 boxes to be made, including sanitary products. And once those have been distributed, it started on Monday. Once those have been finalized, and we've finalized the assessments of the social assessment forms during this week in terms of where the acute cases are, we will start the distribution of the vouchers so that persons within the community, especially the most vulnerable in the community, would then, through a delivery service, be able to access groceries, and their voucher will count as cash. And then, by then, we hope to have an answer as to the assistance from the Netherlands, whereby we know the 2019 budgetary support, liquidity support, is expected in the amount of about 50.2 million, minus whatever we owe for the police that are, the prisoners that are in detention in the Netherlands. And this is only requiring the approval of our budget thus far because we have lived up to the other condition. The budget is expected to go to Parliament by next week.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Andrew. We now, Minister of Finance.
Yes, I just want to be very clear on the process, because we had some questions, and I realized even among the media, the process wasn't maybe too clear. So the idea is 3 components. Businesses first will get support. The idea is to support the businesses with subsidized payroll support. I'll break down even more. So businesses will get money to help pay for their employees' salaries. The idea is, again, to avoid layoffs. A second component is independence. So for example, independent taxi drivers, vendors, tour operators, artists also will get income support. And then we have the unemployed who will go through the regular unemployed benefits program that already exists within government. Secondly, how we will also have an awareness campaign to let employees know which companies have gotten subsidy support, and so that companies also do their part and pay their employees.
Thank you, Minister Irion. We now move on to the third round of questions. Stephen Cyrillian, you have the floor.
Minister, the situation is still fluid. You're basically saying that you will make salaries available up to 80% to the various companies who might have been disturbed by COVID-19. COVID-19 is still ongoing. How long do you as government intend to make salaries of 80%, up to 80% available to the companies? And I mean, plenty will be affected by this entire scenario, to ensure that workers remain employed and not be laid off.
Thank you for your question. The current plan entails for 3 months, but the overall plan our plan has 3 different sections: a best case scenario of 3 months, worst case scenario of 9 months. So the plan has a scenario for 9 months. The Netherlands has requested that we send in a plan that shows the the second quarter, which is 3 months. So our current plan, when it comes to subsidy support or salary support, is for the first 3 months, starting the end of April.
Thank you, Minister Irion. We now move on to Jeffrey Sokran of Island 92. You have the floor.
Thank you, Minister. If you could just elaborate a little further, you said starting the end of April. So does that assume that payroll support for April would then include the typical April payroll?
So you might say that one more time. You really have a breaking up.
The connection is a little spotty, guys. I'm sorry. The radio station is operating out of the house too, so we're a little constrained. So when you said we expect the plan to begin during April. So does that mean that payroll support would kick in, that regular payroll for a company in theory would be covered 80% if your business were to qualify?
Yes, for end of April, yes.
Got it. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sacrin. We now move to Andrew Dick of TV Carib. You have the final question.
All right, Minister Irion, concerning the businesses. So let's say if a business doesn't, they happen not to comply with whatever regulations they have to abide by to, ask for their support for salaries. And they still end up laying off persons. Is that also being looked at? And also, has Parliament been consulted yet concerning this particular proposal?
Okay, so your question is, if a business doesn't comply and they still lay off persons, I don't really get the question, because
You don't read the question. So let's say a business decides to not ask for the support, and they lay off their employee anyway, and say because COVID-19 and the business climate and so on. Has government looked at that scenario?
Okay, so it would be very unfortunate for a company to lay off employees knowing that there is support coming in. But
what if they do? What if they do? Not, it's up to them.
Okay, exactly. So again, it'll be very unfortunate that having this plan put together to avoid layoffs, that companies still would lay off if they're especially qualify for the subsidy support. But if they still do, then technically those persons then would have to go through the regular unemployment process.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Once again, members of the media, that was the final question. The floor is now closed. I would like to thank the media for taking part in this press conference. I would now like to invite the Minister of Finance to provide his closing remarks.
Thank you, Relaika. Thank you to the media. Thank you to the viewing public. I would like to let the public know that during this week, a lot more details and information will be coming out. We'll have press releases, like I mentioned, the website, more interviews, and we'll be keeping you informed. Also, we'll be having more information pertaining to how businesses could start their process as of hopefully next week to get their employees on the payroll support. And I would like to tell the people of St. Maarten that we will get through this. These are challenging times, but the government is working in your best interest, and we will get through this even stronger, just like we did after Irma. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Irion. I would now like to invite the Prime Minister to provide her closing remarks. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Relaika. Thank you very much, Minister Irion, for that very clear presentation of the plans of the government of St. Maarten to meet the needs of our people. I think what people can note is that it is a comprehensive plan. If businesses, of course, behave in an integral manner, this will be the best way, of course, to assist our population. It not only helps Dutch citizens, it helps all employees who are working on St. Maarten. I ask the employers to be patient, to be diligent, and find ways as much as possible to assist their employees until this stimulus plan can be enacted. Not only are we assisting the employed, we are also looking at those persons who are independent, such as artists, such as Minister mentioned, the taxi drivers, the vendors, etc., who are unable to make a living at this moment. We are hoping that we can have the peak happen soon and see the decline necessary to say that we are flattening the curve. If that happens within the 2 weeks, then there's an even faster turnaround for us to be able to loosen our measures. As testing becomes more worldwide available, we can then put a COVID-19 negative requirement for those persons to be able to visit St. Maarten. I'm getting daily calls to allow St. Martiners to come home. I'm asking for patience where that is concerned also until the end of the lockdown period so that we can contain. If I allow persons to come in at this moment, you're opening for more persons to be regulated by CPS, and we are already at our limit as to what we can do. We do not want anyone to fall through the cracks. We do not want to start a new wave. And so within this strategic period of containment, we are asking patience and diligence. Also the socially persons who are already unemployed and those who have registered as unemployed will be covered within the stimulus plan. So if you do not fall within one, then you will fall within two. And if you do not fall within 1 and 2, then you will fall within 3. And we hope by this way to cover the greater population. And as was asked earlier today, if you are collecting your pay, should you be paying your bills? Yes. And once the stimulus plan is in place and you're getting 80% of your salary, yes, pay your bills. If 80% of your salary does not allow you to be able to live, then you will come in American. You will come qualify to then get assistance socially as well, so that you can be able to not only pay your bills, they keep money circulating in the community. The businesses will get money, the persons will have money in their pockets, they will also pay their social premiums, SZV will be able to pay doctors, etc., etc. And this way we are keeping everybody alive and economically stable until we can I would like to thank each and every one who are on the front lines working hard, as well as all those who are in the banking institutes who have started to work again yesterday in order to assist those who are making bank transfers and payments to be able to get their groceries. Thank you to all, and we will continue to do what we can to assist the people of St. Maarten as we wait for that stimulus plan to kick in. Thank you, members of the media. Thank you, people.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your closing remarks. Thank you, Minister Irion, Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers. This does bring us to the end of this broadcast for today, Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. For rebroadcast, tune in to St. Maarten Cable TV, St. Maarten Gov Radio 107.9 FM, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Maarten, and YouTube channel, Government of St. Maarten. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at stmartengov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Maarten, I am Relaika Roach and bidding you a pleasant day further.